As we talk about where the Sixers are right now and some of the things that they need to do, there are 10 games left after last night's game, and Indiana's in the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. And with them being right there, you would hope that they got some help last night from the Clippers. Clippers, though, did what they did against the Pacers, just like they did against the Sixers on Sunday. Right now, Pacers are currently 2.5 games up right now. Pardon me, 1.5 games up on the Philadelphia 76ers at 41-32. Sixers are in the 8th seed, where the Miami Heat have a half-game lead over the Sixers, 39-32, 1 game back of the Indiana Pacers. So as much as we talk about the Sixers possibly playing the Miami Heat, the Heat could also catch a wave, catch a hot streak, and Indiana could fall back, where you're still maybe looking at the Sixers on the road, but it might not be Miami. It could potentially be against the Indiana Pacers. Right now, the Sixers are 7 games up on the Chicago Bulls. That's a good thing at the moment.
Yeah, I think you can pretty much close that one.
Yeah.
Close the door on
no,
that.
Sorry, my math is wrong. 5 games up on the Bulls.
Even still, 5 with 10 games left. Unless the Bulls go 10-0, I think the Sixers are in a pretty good spot.
Yes, they're in a pretty good spot. So right now
and
we're
if
looking
the Bulls
at...
go 10-0, I will eat a shoe on live stream.
That would be interesting. I don't want to see it, though. I don't want to see that.
Made that bet once. I probably shouldn't do it, but I'm pretty confident on this one.
pretty confident on this one. In that one. So we're looking at right now 6, 7, and 8, Pacers, Heat, Sixers in some order by the time the regular season ends in April. Man, we talked about this a little bit. The Bucks have created some space from the Cavs in that 2-3 matchup that we were looking at of who's there. The Knicks, by the way, are only a half a game back of Cleveland for that 3rd spot. Dante DiVincenzo broke the Knicks all-time record of knocking down 11 threes. He scored 40 points, beating down the Detroit Pistons like many teams have done this season. With that, though, what are your thoughts on the chances of the 6th seed? Is that eating shoe worthy that the Sixers could jump back into the top 6? But we're looking at Pacers, Heat, Sixers in some order. If you're looking at these 10 games, man, we've discussed it plenty of times about how difficult the schedule is. This is a tough road. They're probably going to be a play-in team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to put a shoe on it. I'm not quite that confident in it. Because strange stuff could happen, especially if Joel Embiid comes back. And that's sort of the unknown is like you can look through the Sixers' remaining 10 games. Like, when would Joel Embiid come back? The truth is none of us have a good idea because I think the Sixers are going to be real quiet about this until he is pretty much ready to go because I don't think they want to overpromise and underdeliver in this situation. So I think they're just going to be quiet and quiet and quiet. And next thing you're going to know is you're going to hear that he's doing full practice and he's coming back whenever he's ready cardio-wise. Like, I just don't think you're going to get a update until they feel really confident about it. So that could end up being like in a week, or that could end up being 2 days before the end of the regular season. We just don't know. But if he comes back earlier, that would certainly help. And then maybe that 6th seed is back into play, especially if something happens with the Pacers, whether it be an injury or just poor play. But I would give the Pacers a really good chance, 85, 90, maybe even 95% chance of finishing ahead of the Sixers.
Yeah, so if we're looking at that, how do I look at this matchup right now against Miami or even Indiana, just being on the road. If the Sixers could somehow jump into that 7th spot where they host that game, especially if Embiid is on the floor, you don't want to play in that second one. Now, does anything change when you look at the 3 spot with New York versus Cleveland? Because I would lean more towards, they're going to beat Cleveland in the series, or they have a better chance. Sorry, I don't want to, because they played well against them in the regular season. They've had their ups and downs with the Knicks, losing 3 of those games against New York. If you're looking at that in that 3 spot and somehow you do get the 6, you probably want to play Cleveland more than you do New York.
Probably. That being
Although
said,
you can still beat the Knicks.
Yeah, that being said, outside of the Celtics, if you give me Joel Embiid back and playing at 85, 90% of Joel Embiid,
you like his chances against anybody.
I don't fear anyone outside of Boston. And that's why when people are like, well, why would you even bother coming back? Well, because if you finish 8th and you win 1 game, next thing you know, you're playing the Bucks in the first round. You have a chance. It's not a great chance. I wouldn't make them the favorites, but you have a chance. And whenever you have a chance with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, you've got to take it, especially if there's not a huge risk of re-injury. And I think that's one thing, you're hearing a lot of people say like, oh, shut him down because it's best for his long-term health. Every conversation I've had, especially given the amount of time they've given him to come back from this one, Coming back now isn't a significant risk to his long-term health. The risk for his long-term health was a removed cartilage. That's already gone. Coming back now, I don't think is adding that much more risk to it. Not zero risk, but not much risk. And it's always going to be inherently there. So I don't think this is like a shut him down for 8 months. And
I totally agree.
I think people
totally agree.
Sort of conflate every knee injury as the same. I don't think that this one requires that much of a recovery window. But yeah, I think you're probably right. I think you'd probably prefer the Cavaliers a little bit. But I wouldn't, and we're talking now about a second round matchup. So that's even, let's put it this way, if they come out and they beat the Bucks in the first round, you're talking about a second round matchups. I wouldn't have too big of a concern because you just beat the second
against
team
anybody
in the Eastern Conference. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You've given a chance for Joel Embiid to come back. You've given a chance for Joel Embiid to show that he's back into his regular season form. And he's also succeeded against a pretty tough matchup. Yeah, that would be a good outcome.
Yeah, that would really be a good outcome. And that's the best case. Of course, getting the 6. If they can get the 6, they're in a very, very good spot because you do avoid Milwaukee and Boston. Although you may not fear Milwaukee, it's still the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis can take over a series just with the best of them. The same thing certainly for Joel Embiid, but we just don't know his health. Now, Giannis, is dealing with a little bit of health stuff right now where he's missing a few games here and there because of injury. But in this case, if they were able to get the 6 and get that 3 matchup, Cleveland or New York, they're in a pretty good spot.
We all silly like the mayor.